Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Shelley Reed. I'm the manager of the Legal Services National Technology Assistance Project. We just call ourselves LSNTAP because it's a whole lot easier, less of a mouthful to say. We're here today with a team from Clio, and they're going to give us a brief introduction to Clio and their services. And then we're going to turn off the recording so that you may feel like you can speak freely and you can ask questions without having to worry about being recorded. And so I'm going to turn it over to Robbie to introduce your team.
Thanks so much, Shelley. I'm going to share my screen here. We do have a little slide deck, but I see a friendly face here. Mauricio has joined us as well. Hello, Mauricio, and everyone who's able to join today. Just let me share my screen. And the goal is to try to keep this pretty informal and have kind of Q&A throughout if you have questions or want to jump in. So I did put together a short deck that we'll walk through to introduce ourselves and the solution that Clio has built with some partners in the legal aid space. And then Luke will walk us through a demo of the actual product itself. But again, hopefully this can be informal and more of a conversation than Clio coming to show you what we're proud of, but we definitely want to hear from you all. So we'll start here with some introductions as to who's here from Team Clio. We have Annie. Annie, I guess I'll pass it over to you if you want to give a short introduction on yourself and what you've been up to with legal aid.
Yeah, my name is Annie. I'm a senior product manager here at Clio. I am responsible for our legal aid products.
And Luke.
Hi, I'm Luke Wagner. I'm a senior account executive at Clio. I've been at Clio for nearly 9 years. I started when it was a small-ish startup with about 100 staff, and now we're growing well over 1,000 and putting a lot of efforts into the legal aid space. And I'm dealing with a lot of legal aid prospective clients and helping firms and organizations evaluate Clio.
Awesome. Thanks, Luke. And I'm Robbie. I do not have my son with me on the call today, but it was the only photo I have of myself in the last few years because since we've gone remote, I have not had a professional headshot taken. I work on the product marketing team here at Clio, and I've been working closely with both Annie and Luke on helping to bring our product to market and share it with you all. Our agenda today, we just went through our introductions. I'm going to give a quick 1 or 2 minute overview of what Clio for Legal Aid is all about. And then as I mentioned, Luke will take us through a product demo and we will have a Q&A session. Shelley, do you like to hold that till the end, or is it useful just to kind of go with Q&A throughout? What have you found works well with?
That is completely up to you. If people want to put questions in the chat or if you prefer to answer, I will let you make that determination, but we will be turning the recording off after the demonstration so that people can ask questions live as well.
Great. All right, that sounds good to me then. We'll go with that. And so what are we here to talk about? And those of you on the call, you may know Clio as a legal practice management company that serves for-profit firms, but we've also been working closely with partners like Access to Justice and Mauricio, the LSC, and organizations like the Neighborhood Legal Services Program to build something new and tailored to this space and the unique needs. And as legal aid services providers on this call, you obviously realize how crucial your role is in ensuring that clients get the assistance that they need. But what we found when we came into the space is that the software options that are available for nonprofits, they just often fall short, and you're kind of left with either generic tools that don't quite fit the bill for you, or they can be quite expensive, clunky, and what we saw to be pretty dated, which really just makes your job more difficult than it needs to be. And so our goal was to build a solution that was cloud-based, affordable, and innovative, built specifically for your needs. So with Clio for Legal Aid, you can do many things. Some of those are use the built-in calculator to determine your client's financial eligibility, manage and track deliverables, including your grants, matters, client outcomes, and ensure your grant spending is on track. You can also monitor how much time your team is allocating to grants with detailed reports. You can quickly reallocate resources to maximize your funding. And you can make your services more accessible to your clients with built-in features like text messaging, mobile-friendly intake forms. So you can make it really easy to stay in touch and work together with your clients. And all of this can be done directly within the Clio platform. So super high level, but now Luke will walk us through more of this functionality and give you an opportunity to see sort of under the hood as to how this all works and comes together. So Luke, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here now, and
Perfect.
we'll let you jump into that piece.
All right, perfect. So here we go. We should be able to see my screen now. Before we go into the screen, I always just kind of like to show this one slide as what we're going to talk about today. So Clio, obviously the complete system, but we have kind of two pieces. We have our client intake software, which your organization will use for tracking income eligibility, collecting information, following up, and screening potential clients. And then once the client has been accepted by the organization, then we effectively move them to our case management system, which in turn is called Clio Managed. And that's where our features like grant reporting, time tracking, client portal come into play. So as I start going through the demonstration, we're going to start things off with Clio Grow to show you some of the intake capabilities. Then we'll work a case out of Clio Managed to show you the various options from there. So with that, let's get into it. So with Clio, everything is fully cloud-based. So at the start of your day, you're simply going to go to our Clio login webpage in your web browser of choice. And then you're going to sign in either to Clio Grow, which again is the intake system, or the case management system. So let's sign in. So when I sign into Grow, the whole idea of Grow is that this is going to be your screening system where you're going to track your potential or prospective client. This is where an organization is going to be able to effectively customize their view of potential clients. So in my organization, sometimes we have people calling us and we'll send them an intake form. So these three prospective people here, we are awaiting their form to come back. This person here, Ryan, we've received this form back, but have yet to do a next step. These two have consult scheduled to meet with our staff. These four were awaiting signing, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a view where the organization will be able to customize based upon whatever your stages may be. What's really great about Clio Grow is that we can also integrate on your webpage directly an intake form link. So a prospective client can go to your webpage and you'll have the ability to put an intake application link. So here's my fictitious firm website where I have various intake applications for different types. As soon as I click it, that then immediately opens up the intake form. Though understanding, we're not going to tell everyone who speaks to us, hey, go to my webpage and click on the form. To give better client service, you may say, hey, what's your email address? What's your phone number? Let us send that to you. You'll literally have the ability with a click of a button, hit this arrow in the top corner and hit quick form. You may have different intake forms based upon the different case types that you deal with. And then at that point, you're literally going to just type in the person's first name or last name. So let's pretend here we have Mr. Vince Smith, who are going to be helping. The system will immediately do a duplicate check so we can see Vince Smith has been already here. We'll confirm, hey, is this you? Is this somebody else that might share the same name as you? And then you'll have the option to fill the intake form yourself on the client's behalf. Perhaps someone doesn't have technology or computer, or as we know, most people usually have at least a cell phone or an email. So you'll have the option to both email and send that direct link to the client. In doing that one action, the system will send an automated email to the client and create their potential matter or screening case, as I like to call it. So as we see here now, we have a legal aid intake is pending because it has been sent to Mr. Vince. So he'll basically get an email in his inbox asking him to click a link. Before we show you what he sees, just want to kind of highlight a couple other quick things. So as we enter the case information in, we're going to want to probably put a descriptor. So he's telling us he's having some landlord issues. As we go down, we'll have the ability to track a source of client, as a lot of organizations want to know where their clients are coming from. So all these source types that you see here, the organization will define them. So let's pretend this person came in via referral, and we can even track who the specific referrer was. So that was Bart Simpson in this case. As we talk to that client, we'll note here there's 4 sections here: intake, notes, communications, and files. So notes is a place for internal note tracking. So once we talk to the client on that initial meeting, they told us they have 3 kids. They told us that they've lived at the house for 6 months or whatever notes you would be entering on a piece of paper or Word doc. You can save that directly to their file. And then we're going to talk about the other things that Clio Grow can do, but we'll first show the intake side. So at this point, the person will check their email or their phone, because it's also will text them, and they're going to get that email. Please fill out this form. The organization will be able to customize the messaging that they see as they see fit. So if you want to add colors, logos, different languages, that's really easy to set up. That prospective client now is going to click that intake link. And now here's a form. It could be obviously done on a computer. These are also, they're mobile friendly from the beginning. So if they don't have a computer, that mobile will work. So there'll be my organization details at the top. There's now my instructions or guidance to the client, whatever I wish to provide. And then now it's going to be the client's turn. So we'll note their name and email is already there because we filled it in. So we're going to now continue filling, maybe making a correction, continuing filling things like name, address, city, etc. And then beyond that, that's now where our income eligibility calculator comes into play. So this is where a person will be able to enter things like how many people are in their household, how many are underage, respective income sources, how it's being provided, and further questions related to legal aid experience. Similar for expenses, they can track whatever payments that they have against that. Once that information then is entered, that the Clio will perform the eligibility for financial performance. As we then pass the intake eligibility, this is now where the questions start coming in. So your client may want to tell you a story about their case, so they'll have that option to type in a detail. You may have a date-related question where they need to ask you, or you need to ask them about a date related to their case, so they can then select a date from their calendar or type it in. We may ask a multiple choice question where they're picking option A, B, or C. We as well may have something mandatory. So I require a social security number. And all these questions are very general, as you can see, birthday, social security number. But again, when you get started with Clio, we'll customize these forms with the exact questions that you want to asking your client. We also have things like follow-up questions where a prospective client can then in turn, based upon their answer, give you more information. So if someone is married, we probably want to know the name of their spouse. If someone's employed, we might want to know details about their employer. So the idea is that makes it really easy based upon their answer, some logic to answer more information. Final thing to highlight here is as the client fills in this questionnaire, they'll also have the ability to send a document to you. So perhaps they have their briefing documents, they have previous leasing documents, ID photos, whatever you need to request, they can all do that in one flow. So in the same step they're giving you their information, they'll attach any related document to that. At this point, if a client is not finished because they got busy, they can save and return to that link later. If they are done, they're simply going to submit. As soon as they submit, within seconds of that happening, whoever's involved and associated to that case file will get an automated email letting you know that that person has submitted their intake form. And then the client will also get a thank you message. Hey, we got your form. And again, this could be personalized, customized as you see fit. When we now go back to Vince's file, we're now going to notice here that his intake has now been submitted. We'll also note here, if I go to my files tab, there's that actual intake form that's been created today, and there's that Word document that he included. When I view that intake form, I'm now going to see all those financial eligibility questions right at the top, and then this will have the calculations for the intake eligibility per the federal poverty guidelines. We go down, we see all the respective answers about their case, so we can basically have a standardized flow for every new client. Will always have a same or similar type of intake form. So now that the client has received their intake, or we've received it, we would typically be updating their state either by dragging, dropping by that previous view, or simply clicking moving them to intake received. So now, depending on the organization, once an intake is received, some will immediately try to call the client to book a meeting. Some may have to reject the client because it's something we can't help with. Some may have to send an engagement letter. So whatever the next step is, that's all going to happen in this add single item option. So built into Grow is task management. This will allow you to set yourself or other staff reminders. So we want to set a reminder to call the client back because we tried to call them, there was no answer. And we'll set a reminder for us on Monday. Come Monday, if I don't hear from them, the system will also send me an email reminder minutes or hours before that is due. And now we see there is now call the client back as a pending task. Okay. Oh, and then as we move along here, we also have the ability to do appointment scheduling. So perhaps we connect to the client, we now want to set up that meeting appointment with them. I'll choose create new appointment. When it comes to meeting the client will have the ability to assign that to whoever they're going to be meeting with, be an attorney, paralegal, intake person. We'll be able to have different lengths or types of meetings. And then we'll have the option to simply select the time. Okay, you're going to be meeting with Luke. He's free on these days at these times. Or I could send a link to the client and let them pick a time themselves. Sometimes clients are, they can't commit to a ride or they don't know their schedule. So instead of doing the phone tag game of chasing each other to figure a time out, we'll say, hey, we're going to send you a scheduling link that will then allow you to pick a time at your convenience. Clio will also have automated reminders. So we're then going to be able to have reminders of their meetings via text and email. So the client now checks their email, they figure their situation out, and now they're going to click a time to meet, which is now going to be next week at noon. And confirmations go to all. So now, about that. So now that the appointment has been scheduled, again, the idea is we're going to be updating their status to now consult schedule. So fast forward a few days, we have that meeting. Perhaps during that meeting, we're going to learn more things about their case. So let's add that note right to their file here, whatever that note may be. Bam, there it is. So now at this point, some legal aid organizations have a potential client sign an engagement agreement, a legal aid agreement, whatever document you may have. So when I choose my last option here, which is prepare a document, I'll be able to have templates of commonly used documents. So for example, I'm going to select my engagement letter. I'm going to select draft. And then in a matter of minutes or seconds, the system will create a draft of the document with the blanks filled in. So everywhere that's been underlined, that today's date was auto-filled in, the case descriptor, the person's name, their address, or anything else that's referencing the intake. This will also allow you to edit or adjust the initial letter. So if there's a different wording or verbiage that needs to be added, we can do that very easily. At this point, if we want paper copies, we'll have the option to preview this as a PDF and print it. Though most organizations want to be paperless, so built into Clio Grow is an e-sign service. I'll hit prepare for signing. It'll take a moment or so to create the document in e-sign form. That's what it's doing right now. We'll note here, there's a preview of the document, so it's no longer that text view, it's the actual final view. We'll preset where our signatures go if we need additional spots to initial or sign. It's basic e-signing, as you know. And then again, this will give you the option to have them sign by email and text, or if they're in person, we can have them sign right away. When we do send something for signature, we're also able to set a due date. So if the client doesn't sign a document by the respective due date, they'll have the ability to be reminded automatically, so less administrative tasks. So at this point, they talk to their family, they sign their engagement letter. So let's quickly do that. And then as soon as those actions happen, just like everything else, whoever's been assigned to the matter in Clio Grow, could be multiple people or one, would get an automated email letting you know that that person has submitted their intake, or sorry, their engagement letter. So now at this point, we would consider this client hired, or maybe perhaps we couldn't help them. So maybe we had to refer them out or reject them, or maybe they went with another attorney. So we can effectively track the status of where the client is going to end up. At this point, I'm going to consider them hired. One thing I just want to highlight here is you saw me individually click each action and then update the status. And that was done intentionally because some organizations want that manual touch where they're controlling every step of the way of the intake process. Though for other organizations who are trying to service more clients at as many as possible, Clio Grow also offers an automation option. So instead of selecting each item one at a time and doing that manual work, I'll be able to create workflows for different types of case types. So I have one here called Rapid Intake where we see our gear icon. Once we do that, we're now going to start an automated workflow. This will now automatically send a specified intake form that I've defined. Once the intake form is received, it'll automatically update the status to the next step, which is intake received. And then once that intake received, it'll automatically send that booking link to the client. So the key message here is that there's options for automation or options for manual based upon how your organization runs. At this point, now that the client is considered hired or accepted, we would be moving them to the case management system by hitting this convert to Clio Manage button. That effectively is going to take everything that's happened in this person's file, their name, their address, their files, their documents, etc., and convert it over to the case management system. So let's pretend that this is the case that it moved over to. So now this is Clio Manage. So Clio Manage, going back to that quick chart, is the case management system. So if you're familiar, obviously, legal server, they have an intake piece. Clio Manage is our case management system. So in this case, we'll right away, we're in an existing matter. We'll see here kind of a quick dashboard. So we'll see a total, or we'll see the grant that the case is related to, and we can associate that. We'll see how much time is being spent, the count for case reporting purposes, all the client and related party details, and then any specifics that came from their intake sheet. So all of that will be standardized. Then as we basically go through each section along the top here, it's going to be the different parts of Clio. So when it comes to time tracking, expense tracking, those are activities. So I'll simply go to activities, hit new time entry. I'll then have a choice to run a timer if I prefer to clock in and out, or I can simply enter in my 2 hours of time, my 0.5 hours of time, my 45 minutes of time. And then I attended a court hearing and save. At this point, we'll also see that here's where this is associated to the general support grant, or if there's other grants, we can tag it to there. If we have attorneys that are doing any sort of pro bono or volunteer time, we'll also have the ability to track and report off of that as well. And then now we see that this case is the one that I've been working on a while. So there's all those respective entries and totals as time has gone on. Okay. So as we move along here, then we have our calendar. So now that we have a client, there's going to be future follow-up meetings, events, deadlines, etc. So in this point, we'll see there's the follow-up meeting, there's the meeting, and there's other meetings. To schedule something new, we're simply going to hit new event. We're going to enter our details. So this will be our pre-court meeting. And then we'll have the ability to invite the related parties. So there's Bart, Marge, and the rest. And then we'll pick a date and time, and this will automatically sync over to your Outlook. Clio also has a Zoom integration. So as we create events in Zoom, it'll automatically send a Zoom link by simply checking the box. Also, each user is going to have an individual calendar. We're also going to be having an organization or a firm-wide calendar, as well as create customized calendars as well and save. For the organizations that help with litigation, one of the big features that Clio helps with is we also have a built-in court deadline calculator. So Clio actually has integrations with thousands of different courts through the US. So obviously we have legal aid organizations all over. But for example, I select New York. There's literally a good couple hundred courts available in New York. Different states might have less. Nebraska being a little bit smaller, there's maybe 6 or 7 courts. So the idea being is that an organization will define their jurisdictions via the setting sections that they want court deadline calculations. And all we're going to do to have Clio calculate deadlines is click our arrow and select new court rule. At this point, we're going to have the ability to select our jurisdiction. So let's just pretend here we are in the Northern District of Illinois. And now we're going to type in our case trigger. So our trigger is dependent on what we're doing in court. So for example, if I type in filed, maybe we're amending a complaint, we're answering a complaint, or we're filing a complaint, whatever it may be, I can select that. For the sake of the example, I'm going to just type in trial. So we got to the point where we're going to a trial, and we already have received the trial date, and that trial is not going to be for a few months until the middle of June. I'll hit the next button, and then in a matter of seconds, there's now all your procedural deadlines for having a trial in the Eastern District of Illinois on June the 12th. Clio now has calculated the respective dates and deadlines. So as we see, deadlines from March all the way up till June. It also will give us a definition of how that deadline was calculated. So this first deadline was calculated 90 days before the triggering event, which is the date of the trial. And then here's all the legalese, civil code that it came from. So all that homework or behind the scenes is provided to you so you can effectively check your work. We'll hit next. Similar to the events, we can add it to our own calendar. We can add it to any of the shared calendars. And then we can also invite others internally if they need to know about the deadlines, which in this case is Mike. And then just like before, Clio will also remind you before these deadlines happen. So things are less likely to slip through the cracks. As we now look at the case calendar, anything to do with a court deadline is going to have the gavel icon beside it. If we wish to filter and sort and show me just my court deadline versus just my calendar events, I have that option to do so as well. As I'm going to take a quick pause to kind of just take another quick second on Clio. So as we kind of go through each section, you've noticed that all of these time entries are related to this matter. All of these calendar events are related to this matter. But we also notice here on the left, those same sections are there. So I can click calendar here on the left-hand side, and there is now my traditional full view calendar that shows me all my meetings and events. So luckily tomorrow I got a light day, but on Friday I have a pre-trial meeting regarding an exoneration. I have a task that's due related to Clio Grow. I could see my staff have some follow-up meetings, hence why the color is different. And then this in turn again will automatically sync to your Outlook calendar through Office 365 or Google. What's also nice from a time tracking perspective is sometimes we forgot, hey, what did we spend our time on? we could literally look at our calendar, hit this add time button, and have it track that time directly from the calendar as well. So there's many avenues to do so. So now I'm going to go back to the matter and talk to the communication section. So the communication section is effectively a central hub for phone calls, emails, text messages, as well as our secure client portal. So again, this is an active case, so we've had a history already here. If I want to look at just the phone call, here they are, based upon from earlier last March and beyond. If we want to log a phone call, we can simply hit new phone log, and then we'll have the ability to keep track who has phoned us, keep track of our messages, what we talked about. We can record that time in the same window, and we can also notify other staff that this phone call happened. If you are using modern voice over IP systems like RingCentral, Vonage, Dialpad, GoToConnect, Clio actually has automated integrations where it can automatically track your time and keep phone logs for you in the case file as well. When it comes to email, Clio also has a direct email integration with both Outlook and Gmail. So I'm going to flip back to my Gmail. I get an email from a related client. Now in Gmail, I'm going to have a Clio button. I press the Clio button, up pops the Clio sidebar, and now we can select a respective matter that this case is related to, or I can simply search for it if it's not one of the ones that it is suggesting for me. Once the matter is selected, I'll have the ability to log the email with one click. If the email that's sent has an attachment, Clio will also save the attachment, and then once the email is filed, you'll also have the ability to directly add a time entry. For the Outlook users on board, we basically have that same capability, though the button is in a different spot at the top of your Outlook toolbar that says File Email, and effectively the same concept. You'll select your matter and choose to bill a time entry or track a time entry or not. So there we go. And then once an email is filed, that's going to show up within seconds there. So we can see there's that email I just saved for that filing the motion. Clio will save the text of the email, so there's what was written in it. It'll also save the original message if we need to reply for it. And then if we forgot to track our time against it, we can add a time entry after the fact, either clicking into the email or via the add time button. And then we'll also notice every section in Clio has an export button. So if the executive director or somebody needs, hey, a quick summary of everything, we can go into a file, hit export, it'll print a PDF or an Excel version of that document. We'll now move on to notes. So notes is just going to be a place for internal notes, but very similar to communications. We have the ability to enter notes, track time, and notify others. The key thing here is that as we enter notes on that initial conversation we had back in Clio Grow, those will automatically transfer back into Clio. I'm sorry, I forgot to realize I've skipped two major sections, which is text messaging. So let's go back there. So when we send an event reminder via Clio Manage, this will send a reminder to your client, reminding them of their meeting time and event time. Any responses or replies will automatically go back to their Clio case file. So each organization will have a texting number assigned by Clio, and anybody working on the client's case will be able to reply and respond to the text messages directly, negating the need to give a personal number or a business line to a client. It will all be managed through Clio. Clio also has a client portal. I'm going to show you what it looks like on the mobile version, but when it comes to things like sharing documents externally, messaging the client, sharing bills for the legal aid organizations that do mixed model billing, that's what our client portal will do. So in this case, I've already shared a document, the client responded. So now we'll skip notes because we just saw that and move on to documents. So the great thing about Clio is we include unlimited document storage. We know a lot of organizations sometimes have to rely on old servers in the closet, or they're using tools like Dropbox or Google Drive, and we provide unlimited storage in our own Clio Cloud, which is called Clio Drive. So as we see, there's already files and folders already here in the case file. To add new files into Clio, there's a few avenues to do so. So one, we can simply drag and drop. I can take files that are on my desktop in a folder or on the Windows view and just drag and drop. Once I do that, this will then give you the option to categorize the document if we want to get more granular. And then we hit upload, and then a few seconds later, the document is now saved as part of the case file. Once documents are in Clio, Clio also has things what we call document versioning. So we can see here's an engagement letter that was last worked on back in 2021. Normally in other systems, you have to download a document, edit it, change it, and upload it back, which is a multi-step manual process. But with Clio, we have something called Clio Launcher. Well, notice beside each file, there's an arrow. So as soon as I press my arrow, it's going to now open that document up in Microsoft Word because this is a Word document. I'm now going to modify my document, which is I'm going to color it, and then I'm going to change and type in today's date, April 24th, 2024, and I'm going to hit save to pretend I'm editing the document. Because I click it via that Clio launcher button, as soon as I go back to Clio and hit view, we're now going to see a version history. So I first worked on that document back in 21, and right now everybody just saw me edit the document. There's a preview of those changes that I just made, and there we now see version 2. So as we continue to work on the document, it'll be then version 3, version 4, and beyond. If we need to go back to the old version or redline it, compare it, we have that flexibility as well. Other ways to access your Clio documents is we also have a direct desktop app called the Clio desktop app. This will allow you to access your files either directly through your Windows Mac Finder or through your Windows Explorer. Since I'm on a Mac, I'll show you the Mac version, but for the PC users in the house, I'll show you a quick little video clip. No different than how you have your server or your shared drive, you're now going to have a drive called Clio Drive. You click into that Clio Drive, you'll have a listing of every client by name. Each client then from there is going to have a subfolder for any matters if they have more than one. And then when we go into the matters file, we'll see those files and documents. So as we see, I'll just show you the Mac version. I go to my Clio Drive. I've set my Clio Drive to be alphabetized so I can look at clients by first name or last name. So let's go to our letter S for Smith. There's now all my Smith clients. So we'll find our friend here, and then once I click into a file, there's their respective matter and any related files or documents. I can directly drag, drop, and work out of Windows or save directly to Clio. Once the documents are in Clio, we also have that e-sign function that I showed you in Clio Grow is built in as well. So now that we have a client and we need to sign further documents, we don't have to rely on an Adobe or external tool. Once the documents are in Clio, we can directly do the exact same e-function I showed you before. If we want to share these documents to our client portal, we're simply going to hit this share to client portal button. And last thing is, I showed you the engagement letter, how we had the client Clio Grow create that same capability is available now on the case management side. So now that we do have a client and we need now a demand letter created or a payment reminder or whatever it may be to be sent on their behalf, we can create templates of our commonly used documents, and then Clio effectively fills in the blank just like before. Okay. And then the last thing here is task management within the matter. So task management allows you to assign work and reminders to yourself or to others. We can very easily individually assign tasks to ourselves, to others, select due dates, and even put time estimates in on how much time this should take you. Also, to automate things, we also have what we call a task list. Most legal aid organizations usually do the same type of work for the same types of cases. If we're helping someone with a landlord case or an immigration case, we usually know, hey, we're doing activity 1 tomorrow, activity 2 in a week, activity 3 in a month, activity 4 in 6 months. So instead of sitting there 5-6 times and manually creating each event and picking a due date, I'll be able to press the button here beside it, assign list. I'll hit that assign list button, and now I have different lists for different types of cases. I'm going to assign this to myself, and now in one click, there's now my case plan. So this is what's going to be tomorrow, making sure everything's been signed. We're doing a follow-up call next week, and so on and so forth. So this makes things very repetitive, so it's kind of rinse and repeat. Last tab, not going to spend too much time in here, is what's called our Clio for Co-Counsel. So I'm going to show you our Clio for client portal, but Clio also has a co-counsel portal. So if you're working with volunteers or staff that are not full staff members that need access to Clio, perhaps to track time or view documents or collaborate on a case, our co-counsel portal will allow you to collaborate completely free to any non-Clio user. So as we saw, we went in a matter, each section was different parts of the matter. So now to go back to the main section, as I started with the calendar, there's our calendar, we saw our week at a glance. When a user first logs in, they see this dashboard, which will show them any tasks or follow-up that are assigned to them, any calendar events or meetings that they have, and then for the organizations that are spending their time related to grants, we'll actually see how much time is being spent on each respective grant. In turn, then we can sort and filter beyond this. Executive members are also going to have access to an organization dashboard, which an executive can look at the time tracking on an individual basis. So they can look at everybody versus a traditional user would just see things themselves. If I click on tasks, these are now my tasks that are assigned to me across all my matters. So today, these are the 3 things that I'm working on. If I click on matters, that's going to be my view of all my matters. There's tons of security and permission settings within Clio, so there's a lot of options you limit access based upon office, role, permissions. When I'm looking at my matter list, we'll notice the columns here, matter, client, practice area. We'll have the full ability to customize what we see here. And then if we want to get granular, we can sort and filter as well. In addition to that, similar to what we showed you in Clio Grow, we also have what's called a stage view. So instead of looking at things at that table view, we now are going to see all the cases in that stage view. So what we showed you before was for intake or screening. Now that we have actually retained these clients and are representing them, the same idea is there. So these are still in assessment phase, this is a mediation, and then this person's incarcerated, and the same idea, we can drag and drop them along, and we have a nice little date count that shows us the time there. Contacts obviously is your contact listing. You can segment between organizations or individuals. Activities is effectively your running timesheet. So today, that was my only meeting of the day, so that I've only done one time entry. But if I wish to track more time or more expenses, I can do so from this sheet across multiple clients. And then for the organizations that are using their grant, this is where your administrators will be able to define their respective grant funding sources, funding codes. So to close things out, just because we're almost done now from my side of the coin, I'm going to show you guys the mobile offerings of Clio. So I'm going to plug my phone into my computer here, and we should see that momentarily. Here, there we go. So as mentioned, we have two apps. We have Clio for Clients, which is the one that your clients will download, and then Clio Regular for your staff. So for your clients, they'll download the app on their phone, and now there is their case. They can message the organization and send you a file back, nice and easy. They can view any documents we've chosen to share with them. They can also send a document back to you. We have a built-in document scanner, so that'll turn it into a PDF, or if it's an actual picture, we can just take a photo and it'll save it as the respective JPEG. For the organizations that bill, the clients will be able to view their bills and even directly make their payments right from Clio as well. So that's also built in. For a lot of organizations that don't bill, I've seen a lot of them use our payment feature to put a link on their webpage. Hey, do you want to donate to us? And then they'll have a dedicated payment link where someone from the community can donate to the organization. And that can be used for that function as well. And then the last function here is upcoming events. So we can see Mr. Max has an upcoming hearing in April. And that's typically what most clients want to know. Can I talk to my attorney and get an update? Can I view my file? Can I know when my next meeting is? And then for the ones that bill, can I pay you? And with that Clio for Clients app, that will probably answer 70 to 80% of your client inquiries. And then to close things out, I'm going to show you the main Clio app, which is the one in the middle. So now when I open that up here, very similar to what you saw, there's going to be a search functionality. So if we're looking for a similar case or looking for something specific, we're going to see a most recent cases. So there's that Tom case that we were working on. I click it open. And now that I'm in the matter, I can do all those things that I just talked about. I can add time on the go. I can add a note. What's really nice is using the power of your cell phone, instead of having to type your big long note, I'm going to simply press the microphone button at the bottom, met the client at their office, and awaiting the final document. And now Apple listened to me and created that note to me. As we go down, we're also going to see all the content. So we're meeting the client, we want to review that intake sheet, or we want to review that document they sent us. So instead of having to lug paper around, I'll pull open a document straight on my phone, and there's that client's respective report. And just like a client can upload or save a document to Clio, the staff have that same capability as well through our app. As we go down, we see all the client information. We can click on their address and get directed in Google Maps or Waze or your mapping program of choice. We can click their phone number or email to directly email or call them. We see all those case information in terms of statuses and custom information. And then again, financial summaries for the ones that do billing. As we see along the bottom, because it's a mobile, the main menus are now along the bottom. So if I want to view my full calendar, let's click on calendar, and there's now all my meetings and events. Let's click activities, and there's all my time entries for today or the week at a glance. And all these views could be sorted and filtered via the filter button here at the top. So if we want to see different things or attributes, very easy to do. And then the final thing is that being mobile, you can use Clio's mobile app to respond to text messages to your client, as well as client portal. So in my firm right now, organization, I have 9+ messages. So let's click into there in the top corner. And there I see, there's my text messages that I can reply and respond to. And then there's my client portal messages that I have yet to respond. So I don't have to rely and wait to go back to my desktop computer. I'll have the ability to do so from anywhere, from my mobile device. So that was a roughly 20-ish minute overview of Clio. So thank you so much for now, and we'll take it back to the team.
Thanks for taking us through that, Luke. There's one question from John here in the chat, and then Shelley, I don't know if you want to stop the recording so that folks can ask questions more freely
Sure,
or not.
let's answer the one in the chat, since people who watch later will see that question, and then we'll turn off the recording.
Annie, do you want to answer that
Yeah,
question
so
for
this
John?
goes about the LSC compliance on this one. Yeah, so we the work that's been done to date has been done as part of a technology initiative grant with the LSC. And so from an eligibility calculation perspective, it is built with the LSC criteria in mind as far as like as it pertains to the financial eligibility. There's quite a bit of flexibility in the form to be able to add additional fields and customizations for different asset and income criteria there. From a broader perspective on intake, we have some additional features that we have prioritized in our roadmap for this year that we will be adding in as well, that are looking at the different reporting capabilities. And then further afield in our roadmap, we still have additional functionality that will be added there to round out intake that I can't talk about quite yet.
Awesome, thank you. So we're going to pause the recording. I'm back after our pause for questions. I hope this demonstration has been helpful for you. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to Clio. They can be reached at their website at clio.com, and they have a legal aid nonprofit case management software link on their homepage. So feel free to reach out, and thank you so much.